you're not in a company that's trying to put out a vision, not to deconstruct their organization, to expand their organization, and it feels wrong, it feels like change, that means you're probably in the right place.
You think about the systems that you grow up in high school and in college, and this is our mission, this is our vision, and do the right thing, be a good representation of your friends and your family, and do anything too stupid. And then you get out in the real world and nobody was successful that didn't make a lot of noise. There's no story of people being wildly successful and not dramatically or significantly impacting or changing something in the world. As a college kid, you don't know that. You don't know that you have that capabilities, again, unless you're a freak entrepreneur where you know that, or you had a parent that was a really great influence, or a mentor, or a family member. It's not something that's taught.
Welcome to Take the Power Back, where our journey is to inspire Gen Z in order to pursue entrepreneurship and be able to get them to the highest possible level in their career and life. And today, a great example of this is my friend, Daniel Raps Huffman. Daniel, how are you, buddy?
It's good to be here. Thanks for having me, Jason.
I appreciate you doing this. Daniel and I go back. I'm going to call him Raps because he's affectionately known as Raps to me.
That's what most people refer to me as. Right.
So I met Raps, I'm going to call you Raps, right when we first started Florida Financial Advisors. So about eight years, coming up on 9 years.
Yeah.
Right. And one of my first hires, one of my favorite humans, of all the people that we worked together with, Daniel and I have traveled together, had fun together, drank a lot of wine together, fought, laughed, cried, all the above.
Blood, sweat, tears.
Yeah, blood, sweat, tears is a good way to put it.
Yeah.
I'm super excited and impressed by your journey. We always ask of all of us who's grown the most, and I think universally, including your wife, would say you have.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's been a great journey.
Yeah.
And it's cool. It's not over. It's just getting started.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I guess I'm going to turn this over to you, Raps. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do here at FFA or in general?
Yeah. So my current position is the Regional Vice President of Georgia Financial Advisors. So I oversee our Atlanta location in addition to our newest Savannah office. I run an office of about 67 advisors in Atlanta. We have about 10 to 11 in Savannah. And our mission is to take people in the Southeast to the highest possible level in their career and in life. We've built our office from March of 22 with me and one other advisor to the 80 people that we have now, and we're becoming a household name amongst people at big organizations that we work with in the area. Mm-hmm. We get invited to go and do presentations at Delta, and we have 30% of our clients are coming from Southern Company and Georgia Power, and you start contacting people and they're starting to recognize that GFA is becoming a household brand, which is really cool to see where we've come from and my responsibilities now, how they've grown and developed and changed. But it's been a hell of a ride, man. We've had a lot of fun.
Yeah, you built that, and I think this is really cool because you just basically said, well, we moved you up to Atlanta. You wanted to live in Atlanta because you went to UGA, which we'll talk about. But there was nobody. So it was you.
It was me and Adam.
And Adam was your first hire. Yeah. You and Adam Granville.
And Adam was supposed to come to Tampa originally, and one thing had fallen through, and he said, hey, I heard you guys are opening an Atlanta office. This was in December of 21. So I just gotten the job. An advisor that was his manager said, hey, this kid wants to go to Atlanta. So we spent the first 3 months of the career while he was getting licensed. I was still in Tampa. He's working out of his parents' bedroom, and I'm sitting on Zoom in Tampa. I remember calling you and saying, I got this kid, he's fully licensed. I don't move up until the end of March. And you said, well, just bring him down here to Tampa. Mm-hmm. And that 1 week where we brought Adam in and got him to experience the culture that we had built, and Team Raps at the time was one of the largest teams in the company, and that 1 week carried him long enough for me to get up to Atlanta. And like you said, the most important hires are all your first 5 hires.
That's right.
What's really fascinating to see and makes me smile, probably the same way that it does to you, is Adam's the vice president of our Jacksonville office.
Right.
Mangino was my second hire. he's the vice president of our Savannah office.
Right.
And then Zach came not long after him. He's the vice president of Providence. And
Right.
Amberly came after them. And she's running, elite financial advisors in our office. She's got 2 new hires coming in as well. And the list goes on and on. So, not to say that we have something different, but there's something that we've done special that's made GFA very unique in our success and the rapid expansion that we've had.
What's crazy about an office like Atlanta, because I think Atlanta was our 5th or 6th office, right? So
yeah, 6.
It was 6. So it was Tampa, Orlando, TFA, which
Philly,
and then Miami,
and then Jax,
and then Atlanta.
Yeah, Atlanta really quick behind Charlotte.
Right.
Yeah, and then after that, it was off to the races. Now we're can't even keep up 20, 21 different locations. And
yeah, I think it's with the out of office, it's over 30.
Yeah, it's incredible to see, and where our vision has gone. And one of the things that I've always enjoyed about you is vision-based leadership. And when you're coming out of college and when you're coming out of high school, and you don't have, I went to a small high school. I didn't get as many opportunities to lead as much as I probably would have wanted to, or felt that I had the tenacity and the spirit to be in leadership. And what's so cool to see is as a company how far we've come just because of vision, just because of saying this is what we're going to go get, and then executing a plan to go and get there. It seems simple, but it's very hard to repeat unless you have good leadership, and that's what's made us really successful is that top-down approach in addition to the horizontal management that we have amongst each other.
So talk about building a scratch operation in the what's it like? The fears. There's many people out there, that are watching this that have been in what I call agency or branch building, region building, that have accomplished what you have. Mm-hmm. You're unique in that ability, right? Yeah. What's it like, when you're by yourself, just building?
It's scary. It's very, very scary. You get imposter syndrome very, very quickly. And one of the challenges that I've struggled with in my career is, when I first moved up to Atlanta, I had this terrible imposter syndrome. Really, I'm leading a group of individuals that are relying on you. They're like, baby birds, feed me, feed me.
Piper.
That's exactly right, Piper. And they rely so much on everything that you do, and they watch your every move. So I remember having panic attacks going into work, crippling panic attacks, and calling my wife and speaking to Vicky, and she was awesome throughout the whole process. And that's, and I'll come back to this, to having somebody that supports you in your career and in life, and saying, look, you've done harder things in your life, mm-hmm. right? This isn't the hardest challenge that you've had to face. So why should this be the thing that stops you in your tracks? And it goes back to, it's the first 5 people that you hire.
Yeah.
And what you had to do to get them there. And my first, 3-4 big managers were, it was Jackie Gailey, it was Nick Mangino, Adam Granville, and Zach Greenhow. And so we put their initials together, and it was JAMS. So
the jams.
So I do JAMS class, like Mondays at 7 or Mondays at 8. And people were, we're going to stay late and do this. I said, this is what we need to do to get to where we need to go. It's just about following a repeatable process. And slowly and surely that nervousness, that imposter syndrome starts to fade, but it takes putting yourself in an uncomfortable position and being comfortable being uncomfortable, mm-hmm. which I feel that a lot of employers and a lot of new college graduates, they don't see that as their number one priority. They're looking for stability, they're looking for comfort. But I think you said this, or either Ray said this to me, my coach, or Tommy, my senior vice president, that growth comes from a place of uncomfortability, of discomfort. And you don't see that being taught. There's a great book that I started to read called You're Not Listening, and it teaches the art of listening. Everybody has all these classes, and you can take a public speaking class in college, mm-hmm. you take a debate class in college, but how many classes did you take that were on how do you listen to somebody? How do you hear what they have to say? And becoming a financial advisor and a leader is about using 2 ears and 1 mouth proportionally. Like you don't get that somewhere else. You don't learn that somewhere else unless you have a good system that's repeatable and executable, which is what we have.
Which is great. So talk about the 5 people. I think is so important, because you built your region, right? You built this amazing organization with amazing leaders. FFA was built. You were one of the first 5 hires, and we can talk about that in a little bit.
Sure.
But you made an investment, and I think a lot of times you're not hiring, financial advisors. You're not hiring people. You're hiring your future with those first 5 people.
Right.
Those are the most important.
Always.
You're creating missionaries.
Yeah,
right.
In a way,
is what you are.
Right.
Who have to are going to have to work in the trenches and fight this battle with you.
Yeah.
So you have to earn their respect and earn their loyalty.
Yeah.
By having them do things that they don't want to do. And I think there's a key component here. What you said was, why are we staying late at 7:00? And you had to lead from the front on this and say, it's because I'm going to make you famous.
Yeah.
We are going to build something great here. And you have to believe that in yourself.
Yeah, you're going to be uncomfortable. There's going to be days where you like me. There's going to be days where you don't like me.
Right.
But in the end, what always makes me smile the days where, and I think about when we first got started in Horatio and that office, and you print out an illustration, you print out a case study, and you put it in front of us and say, you're going to read this with a highlighter and go through and write down questions, and we're going to roll in my eyes thinking, I could be reaching out to clients, I could be doing meetings, and you start to see that this is what he has to do to have people go out into the world and carry that vision with them. It's doing the work with them, being uncomfortable, being vulnerable, but also not letting them see you sweat.
Yeah.
And that only comes with having a really good team and recruiting well and hiring good individuals, which I think is something that again that we execute at the highest possible level.
Yeah, in being an entrepreneur, I think that's critical, right? Because a lot of times you have to translate the skill of what you have the ability to do to the place where you don't need to do that skill anymore.
No.
It's a task. So that skill becomes a task that somebody else needs to do.
Right.
And you develop that.
Yeah, I had a great mentor, and I'll mention him a couple times, Ray Kelly.
Yeah.
And Ray talks about how he has a relationship with Sasha, who is a great story, ex-Ameriprise guy. And his secret to life and his secret to happiness, he always seems like a happy guy. He's been through a lot of crazy stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Was replace the I have to I get to in life. He's got a family that they've dealt with their fair share of issues, and instead of saying, I have to stay late to 7 and 8 o'clock to learn this process to how to run a meeting, you just change that frame to I get to. It gives you this whole new perspective on life that most people will go their entire existence and never stop to smell the roses and say, I get to walk in the rain today.
Yeah.
I get to sit and have to come in and do an interview at 8 o'clock in the morning. I get to deal with the challenges in life, but I'm empowered to be able to overcome those. And again, you don't learn that. You don't have that coming fresh out of high school. You don't have that perspective.
No.
It takes finding a good culture and a good visionary to help give you those insights.
So interesting, right? So the get to and have to, I think, is pretty fascinating. I have not heard that before.
Yeah.
Get to means it's an opportunity.
Yeah.
Have to means it's a chore.
Yeah. It's an obligation.
Right.
I get to gives you this whole different perspective of even the darkest challenges that I have to deal with, I know will benefit me in the long run.
Right.
It's like I said at the beginning of this is, you've done harder things in life. We've all dealt with loss. We've all dealt with, my dad passed away when I was very, very young, and I've gone through my challenges in my personal life. So whenever you face something in your career, and the good news is I'm not a surgeon, right? I don't have to do heart surgery. Nobody dies in the operating table at my job.
That's
so
fair.
If you're listening and you're a surgeon, I have a lot of respect for you.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, we're in an environment to be able to make mistakes, and that should be seen as an opportunity rather than an obligation, and like you said, a task or a chore.
Right. Yeah. Really fascinating. What has coaching done for you? So I know Ray was a coach for me. He's a great mentor of mine, great friend of mine.
Yeah.
What have been some of the biggest learnings that you've had by having a coach?
Yeah. There's been two pivotal moments in my career that have put me towards leadership and away from the idea of, and I still maintain a great personal practice and I can talk a little bit about that, but going into leadership was ultimately my decision in the end for two, it was two big pivotal moments. And the first was, I was still a district manager in Tampa, and I had a large team grow and shrink very, very quickly. And the joke is, this team wraps is where advisors go to die.
I recall that. I think I made that joke up.
You did. You definitely did. And I remember very vividly, we smiled about it at the time, but internally I felt that and I felt responsible. And I was in a car coming back from a meeting and we were talking on the phone and you said that you need to read, and that was a new concept for me, having to actually read something. I don't know how I'd skated by in college doing it, but I did get away with it. And you recommended two books, and it was How to Win Friends and Influence People, which is, since the 30s, one of the best self-help books that you'll see out there. And Working with Emotional Intelligence, Daniel Goleman. And the latter, the Working with Emotional Intelligence, it's very obvious things when you listen to it, but hearing the examples and how they use it, like that book changed my life. Within a year, Team Raps was 13 people. We were doing high levels of production. I had Mitch and Joe Nathan and Matt Fault and people that are still leaders and titans in the industry.
Yeah.
And it was that one pivotal thing. And the second time was, I started this business with Gino and with Tommy, my current senior vice presidents. And I just started a few months after Gino, and Tommy started about a year after me. And I'm so thankful for my relationship with Tommy, even though I've been here a little longer than he has. So many things that he does right that I get to learn from. But you and I had a conversation. I said, how do I get to that next level? And you said, I remember you were sitting in your chair playing guitar, and you said, yeah, I can't be the one to help you with that anymore. I know who I am and I know what I want, and you need something softer, right? And that's what, and you got to use Ray. And slowly I've thought about the best athletes in history, the best golf players, the best tennis players in the world, and they have much better records most of the time than whatever their coaches did. And I think about Kirby Smart, the coach at the University of Georgia, big UGA fan, of course, and
Go Dogs.
Go Dogs, that's right. He was a safety in the 80s, and he was undersized, fast, he's a good player, but he didn't have that natural skill like a LeBron James or a freak athlete, and which is what makes him a good coach, is that he's had to learn the skills that to some people are just natural. Like, how do you explain how LeBron James is so good? He's just a freak athlete.
He's just a freak athlete.
Right, and you don't find that very much. You have to find somebody that works really, really hard. Same thing with like Coach Saban and Coach K from Duke, that they weren't naturally gifted athletes. They worked hard to get there, and that's what makes them good coaches. And I'm thankful for my relationship with Ray, because he came from the operations side, the HR side of the business first, then learned how to become an advisor, then use that as part of his leadership. So he has insights as to the way that people think, and has the experience, the anecdotes to share with me to give me the edge. It's almost like having an oracle or a crystal ball saying, I was you, here's an anecdote as to how that you should go forward and learn from this. So having a coach, and I've had a coach since last September, so over a year now, is the best money that my wife and I spend every single month. And I say that hands down. I default on my mortgage before I stop paying Ray, again, just because of that's what's gotten me to, that's the exponential, the X factor, as he'll say, is you gotta learn, 70% of adult learning is by doing 10% in the classroom, and 20% is that X factor, is the coach. And when the student's ready to learn, the coach appears. Yeah. And I think that was that pivotal moment to say, okay, if I want to get to that next level, I have to have a swing coach. I have to have somebody watching so that I can bounce those anecdotes, those ideas.
Did you always believe in that? I think that's, I think there's so much to unpack in that, right? Really cool. You are investing in your personal development, which means you're writing a check for that. Yeah. Right. And it's important. I always say is we could pay for it, but it wouldn't mean the same if we paid for it. It means you have to make the investment in yourself.
No, and if you use it right, you get the ROI.
That's right.
So by retaining more people, by learning how to coach, by learning how to lead, it ends up back in my pocket. So
multitude of times.
Yeah, over and over. And what's so helpful about it too is you use these lessons in business, and the more and more you use them, the more you see how applicable they are in your own personal life.
Right.
Dealing with your family and dealing with, your relatives and the people that you surround yourself with. It's things that you don't think would be applicable, but like for example, what are you for? Right. So Vicky and I do this all the time, where you come home, Vicky go, I'm hungry. Are you hungry? Yeah, I'm hungry. I could eat. Okay, well, what are you for? And it changed our perspective of if you're hungry and you can't tell me where you want to go, then you're not eating.
That's right.
Or we're going where I want to go because I'm
because
for
we're going
something.
to Chick-fil-A.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's little stuff like that solves small little problems in your day-to-day life that you don't get without a coach.
Right.
You don't get with someone saying, "Oh, you're following through too hard," or like an awkward golf swing. We always use the golf swing as the example. It's going to feel uncomfortable at times, but the best players in golf, there's always someone watching them, filming them, so that you can watch it, watch your swing all the way through and how you strike the ball. When you're coming fresh out of college, you don't know what you don't know. You don't know that that's the X factor, and understanding that comes from having a good vision-based leadership team that has a plan, that knows how to get to the plan and executes on that vision very, very well.
So how did you get the mature? So look, we'll get back into your college days, but you were a very immature college kid.
Very, yeah.
And you're not. You're a great leader today.
It's still there. Well, just
still a little tiny bit sometimes.
You can take the bulldog out of Athens.
Well, that's fair.
You can't take
well,
it.
if it's any consolation, I have the same problem.
Yeah, it's okay.
One of the reasons why I was never able to coach you is because I share your problems.
Yeah.
So I can't coach away the things that would be derailers for you.
Right.
That were derailers for me. It worked out for me.
Right.
And I'm not, I'd be the first one to admit it. And I would not change anything. But there was, I could have circumvented a lot of that stuff if I didn't. Right. So that was like, you know what, Raps and I, you have your problems are the same as mine.
Yeah, that can only take you so far in this world. It's kind of like a relationship with your parents, right? I can give you some basic information, but at a certain point, it's like, okay, well, you need to profit from another land. You can't be hearing the same message from your parents over and over and over and over and over again. It becomes less valuable, and that's where you start to seek out coaches and mentors.
That's fascinating, right? So anybody when you're listening to that, part of your maturity is to grow out of the nest. Yeah. But you don't want to fall out of the nest, go into the wild, and get eaten by a lion.
Right.
You want to fall out of the nest, go into the wild, and then you want to be able to become the lion.
Right. That's exactly right.
You do that by finding a different set of people that can teach you in that situation. When did the maturity switch for you? Right. So, as you think about your journey, right, and you're thinking about how you're open to coaching today, you're open to feedback today in a different way. It wasn't always that way. What were some of the things that happened that you said, you know what? I recognize feedback differently today than I used to, and then I want to go apply that, and I want to become better.
Yeah, so I went to a very competitive small private high school outside of Philadelphia, graduated with 83 kids. Yeah. Of those 83 kids, 11 of them went to Ivy League schools. Okay. Half of them working at Google and have these insane jobs, insane careers, lawyers, other financial advisors. And in high school, I was a solid A-, B+ student.
Not a lot of effort because you're smart.
Sneaky
smart.
Yeah, lazy but talented-ish. Again, I'm not going to toot my own horn, but I'm
smart guy.
I can get by. Yeah, I can get by, and I never had the competitiveness as much because I never was top of the class, and I'm not the most athletic person in the room by any means. Didn't get those genes. Being the funny guy helps. Helps take it a long ways.
That's right. Gets you a long way in life.
Yeah, exactly. And so when I got in the job, I didn't ever think that I was competitive, but I got lapped a couple times where I had started with somebody and somebody that had started after me, or I felt that had a bigger runway to jump up, had lapped me in my development or in my in getting a promotion in those positions, and it feels really crummy when you get passed up on. I remember we did an executive meeting in Philadelphia one quarter, and that was the last quarter that I wasn't in senior executive leadership, and the reason is because I was excluded. So I was up in Philadelphia with my folks, working out of the Philly office, covering some meetings while you guys were in meetings. And I remember telling Vicky on our way back home, I said, that's the last one of those that I sit outside the door. I like to be in the room. I like to be at the table. I know what drives me, and it's being on the top of the leaderboard. It's being the second highest producing office in the company. It's succeeding. But you don't find a competitive edge until you win a few times, or really until you lose a few times, and then you win a few times. So I like that way more.
That's right.
How do I win? I need a good coach. I need to surround myself with a good team, and I need to have a good strategy, a good offense, a good defense, and a good special teams. I have to have good recruiting. I have to have good leadership development. I have to have good pipeline management. You have your offense, your defense, and your special teams. And just learning how to run that play over and over and over again is what makes you a successful team.
Welcome to Take the Power Back. If you're a student or recent grad looking not to have a career handed to you, you're in the right place. The first and really valuable section inside Take the Power Back by joining the movement is really the inspiration that you get by watching the podcasts of young, successful entrepreneurs that have bet on themselves, that had opportunities in order to be able to take jobs with benefits or $50,000 a year salaries. But what they did is they said, I'm gonna pursue something bigger in my life. Entrepreneurship, leadership development, sales, marketing, real estate. And with the amount of inspiration that you can get by actually watching other people that have had success, start to give you a vision for yourself for you to be able to achieve greater things in your life. Let's dive into it. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That kind of brings us back a little bit. So let's just talk a little bit about not complete upbringing, but you go to college.
Yeah.
You're a Sigma Nu. I don't even know what that means.
Yeah, that was good.
A Sigma Nu. You know how I know that?
I don't.
Because you've probably said it to me 1,000 times. Hey, I'm a Sigma Nu. I'm like, well, that means absolutely nothing to me, but good for you, man.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
So, affectionately had funny nicknames in college.
Yeah.
Which I won't actually say on the podcast.
Yeah, probably not here.
Probably not.
We can talk about it later. Yeah.
But talk about your the Frat star, and how did you end up becoming a financial advisor, and then getting into a startup. I mean, you didn't even know it was a startup at the time.
No.
And next thing you know, you're like a wildly successful executive.
So again, it's nature versus nurture, right? And one of the things that I always appreciate about my parents is that, they never really said, "Oh, you can do anything in the world. You can be whatever you want to be." The idea is if you work hard, you can get what you want in life. And my dad has a couple of good phrases that I always stick with. Number one was do what you love and the money will follow. And then your first job out of college, you should expect to work a half day. The hardest part about working a half day is figuring out which 12 hours of the day you work.
That's
the first 12 hours, the second 12 hours. Yeah, so I really respect and I appreciate those lessons from my dad. But to go to your point, I was growing up, I was a good little Jewish boy and had a bar mitzvah, and your friends and your family, they gift you checks for your bar mitzvah. And instead of my parents let me go out and buy the latest and greatest and whatever the heck it was that we were doing at the time, that they take the money and they gave it to a financial advisor. And that financial advisor turned 10 to 13K into several $100,000. They bought 10 shares or 100 shares of Apple, 100 shares of Amazon in 2008.
Oh, jeez.
And when I turned 21 in college and I inherited that minor's account and looking at the cost basis and just talking with the financial advisor and realizing if I can learn how to make $13,000 into $500,000 in the span of 10 years or less, I probably don't have to work for somebody for the rest of my life, that I could make enough money to go and invest that and be able to build my own schedule, build my own life. I thought, I want to do that. That's the smartest guy in the room.
Yeah.
It's the person that can make money into more money. And so by my senior year, I knew I wanted to go into wealth management and financial planning, not really knowing exactly what that meant.
Right.
I thought that meant sitting behind a desk with Bloomberg up on the screen and you're managing portfolios and placing trades. And I probably went on 40 job interviews my senior year of college. And, I'm driving back and forth between Athens and Buckhead, Atlanta, and going to all these different firms, and they're all seven shades of It was, you need to list your friends and family, that we're going to reach out to these people. We're going to try to sell them whole life insurance policies that they may or not need or not need. And, or it was sit in a call center and place trades over the phone and build somebody else's slide decks. And I didn't see that as my way into a successful future. And what you gave us was a vision, again, for a job in Tampa, Florida. I get an email from I thought you at the time, was more than likely actually my wife to be.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Vicky.
It might have been Vicky.
It was probably Vicky. Hey, Jason Mickool, we're interested in you. I thought, hey, yeah, you are interested in me. And I remember being on the career preview and you brought up this video of Tampa and you said something that resonated with me. And I still say this on my career previews today is it doesn't matter, being a financial advisor is not about who you knew at the country club. It's not about who your parents played pickleball with or golf or who you got drunk with in college as well as I might have done that. It was more so about how hard you worked. Did you do that extra meeting on a Saturday? Did you come in early? Did you stay late? And I thought, I know I'm lazy in college. I probably went to less class than I did go to class. And I knew I needed something to give me that extra push that would get me to ultimately where I wanted to be in wealth management and financial advising. And so that vision coupled with, I'm going to have to work for what I want. I'm going to have to eat what I kill, is what gave me that spark to say, I'm dumb enough to go ahead and take an opportunity like this. Because you got to be a little,
nuts.
A little nuts in the head.
Yeah.
You start to overthink things. It's analysis, paralysis by analysis, right? So at a certain point, you just had to say, I see somebody that's successful. I think I'm as smart as that person, or
definitely smarter than that person. Yeah,
no offense.
No,
right?
none taken.
And I said, if I can copy what that person does, I will win. It's just
this is an important thing, right? You self-proclaimed, your words, not mine. I was lazy and didn't really go to class and enjoyed my college life a lot.
That's one way to put it. Yeah,
right.
Enjoyed.
But what you recognized was if you went into the real world and you applied that same behavior,
I'd be toast.
You'd be toast, right?
Yeah.
So what you did is you sought something that pushed you way out of your comfort zone,
right?
And listened to what your dad said, which is which half of the day do you want to work, and sought after not the easy path.
Yeah.
So if you're going on a job interview and that was like, well, we're all about work-life balance and we're all about, work from home and we're all about, a comfy base salary with good raises at the end of the year.
Yeah.
You should run away from that.
Yeah. I knew that about myself.
Right.
Which that's probably one of the cases early in my career where I had, early in my life where I had some self-awareness, without getting proper mentorship to say, yeah, I know what I've done for the last 4 years. I basically went to summer camp, for adults.
Right.
I'm sure my parents love hearing that.
It costs a lot of money.
It costs a lot of money to send me to
summer camp. Yeah.
Yeah. I did get a lot out of it, and I have a lot of nice things to say about you, Jay. But outside of that I knew for me to get to where I wanted to go, I need to really step out of my comfort zone because I'd grown up very, very, very fortunate, very comfortable, very cushy lifestyle. I was used to having, any opportunity that I wanted. And at that certain point, you say, okay, like I said, your parents can only take you so far.
Right.
And at a certain point, they give you the skills to make a decision for yourself to jump and say, I need to venture out. And I was very fortunate that I had parents that were helpful with giving me that opportunity. And I always am thankful to my mom and to my dad as to say, you put me in the best possible position to win. And they always said, well, yes, we gave you the opportunity, but you ultimately followed through on it.
That's right.
And you have to have a little bit of self-awareness to know who you are as a person and say, is this the best thing for me now? or is this the best thing for me in the long run? You always use the example of the Twix bar and the apple, right?
Yeah.
Is do you want an apple or Twix for lunch in 2 weeks from now? You pick the apple, but
right.
when somebody's walking around with a basket of apples and Twix bars, you're quick to grab the Twix bar. It's yummy, it's gooey, it's good in the short term, but you know that in the long term, it's not. You're not getting any skinnier eating Twix bars.
Right.
Yeah.
And if you continue to do that, excuse me, the long-term effects are not good.
No.
Right. So it's the simple, easy decisions to do the right thing, to make the right choices.
Yeah. You get a nice little buzz or whatever, and then over time you do that for long enough, all habits, good or bad, feel good.
Yeah.
And I knew I needed to break the cycle of sitting on the couch, watching movies, drinking too much, and enjoying summer camp for too long.
So it's funny. I can remember you have a picture, I think, of you dressed up in a Zoom meeting that I'm conducting.
Yeah.
When you're brand new like this.
Yeah, 100%. I'm making a face going, you have my curiosity, but now you have my attention.
Like, ooh, what is this?
Yeah.
So when did you know? So we were a startup. So this is 2017. This is 2017.
Yeah.
So we launched in 2017. You start what, July?
July 10th, 2017.
July 10th. So this is brand new.
Yeah, green.
Yeah. So when you get in, when do you realize you're like, holy shit, this is a startup?
Two different times. The first one was I had accepted the job. I was in the middle of getting licensed. And me and my best friend, Harrison Milford, we call him MILF.
MILF.
Me and MILF had driven down to Tampa to see, you remember my roommate, future roommate to be Mesa at the time. So we had driven down to Tampa to go check out the city because I had accepted a job in a city I'd never been to before.
Which is wild in of itself.
Never spent any time in, going off of an anecdote of a girl I worked at a bar with and saying, oh, I'm from Tampa, you're going to love it. It's amazing, yada, yada, yada. Okay, I like Florida, sure.
Sun.
Yeah.
Right?
And we had at the Sale. Do you remember the Sale in downtown Tampa? So you had a happy hour at the Sale, and there's all these people there. And I'm introducing myself, I'm shaking hands, I'm meeting people. You and I met for the first time, and I started talking to people and saying, oh, how's the office, how's the job? And they said, yeah, I'm getting licensed. I got hired a week ago.
Right.
Oh, okay, sure. Oh, how are you liking the job? Yeah, I'm 2 tests in. I'm not
there yet.
And I realized after a while it was you and it was Danny.
Yeah.
And they were the only people that were working in the office. And I went, oh, all right.
All right.
I'll see how this plays. And then I walked in my first day into that corner office, and I opened the door, and there were all these Cisco phones on the tables, and it was you, Danny, Gino, Zach, Batman, and Chris Kane.
Yeah.
And I remember looking around going, oh no.
Oh no.
There's 5 people here. Mm-hmm. What did I just moved here? What have I done? Where's the door? Like, how do I get out of here?
This, right?
Yeah. And it goes back to the first 5 people that you hire, that you keep close to you. And it was, I say a lot of times it was right place, right time, but ultimately it was the tenacity that we had as a team. And chemically, there's something that happens in your brain when you face adversity with other people. Mm-hmm. Your brain releases oxytocin, which is the same feeling that happens in your brain when you eat a piece of chocolate.
Feels good?
It feels good. It feels warm. It feels gooey. And I remember back in my college days, getting hazed as a pledge and, making eye contact when you're, scrubbing stairs with a toothbrush and looking at your buddy. And I have a very distinct memory. It was me and John Sheffield were scrubbing orange juice with toothbrushes off of the stairs late at night, and we looked at each other and we just started laughing. Just burst out.
Instead of being mad,
we're like, this is the funniest thing. How a bunch of guys came up with this to be the task for us to do. It was kind of ridiculous, but it was that trauma bonding that you go through, and that's what me and G and Zach and Nick and the whole team had gone through at that point, is that we were in the trenches together. And that chemical bond gets created to say, I'm not leaving.
Right.
I'm not going to be the person that becomes the example that left behind a gold mine. And that's my success. Is I just didn't leave. I just didn't quit because I've been through so much with this team and I've seen how much it's grown. And I said, I'm not going to be the person that that left the bag.
Yeah.
Left the bag on the table, which again just goes back to the opportunities that I've had here.
Well, it's really fascinating because I remember those days, right?
Fondly.
I
Very
romanticized the past. They were stressful. We fought. We worked really hard.
Yeah, we did.
Nothing was 6, 7, 8 o'clock at night. I remember going to Starbucks when we used to meet people in person.
Yeah.
With Nikolai at 8
Nikolai.
o'clock,
Yeah.
an hour and a half from the house. Right?
Oh, yeah.
And he wanted to look at every number.
It's so funny. So I met with Nikolai, and I'll send this to him, and I hope he understands how important those first 5 clients, how important those 5 people were to me. And we would drive to Wesley Chapel or Boy Scout Boulevard, and he would meet, and he'd drill us for an hour and a half, 11 or 12 times. And I met with him this past week, and we were talking, and I said, it's the holidays. I do the spiel with my clients. It's the holidays. I'm thankful for your loyalty. You helped me get my start. Thank you so much. I stand on the shoulders of giants.
It's a great line, by the way.
And thanks. And Nikolai said, well, I wasn't the easiest client. He's
gonna love the accent.
I worked you guys over.
Yeah.
And I said, but those lessons that I had have stuck with me for the rest of my career. Mm-hmm. So like you said, you romanticize the past of the hard work that you did while you're doing it. I'm sitting there going, I just want to get home. I'm tired. I've been driving all over freaking Tampa Bay today, and I'm watching Jason just basically have a professional argument with our Russian spy.
We call it the KGB.
The KGB agent. Yeah, and thinking, God, your mind is completely elsewhere.
Right.
And now when I think back to it, I said, thank God that I got those experiences, because had I not, I don't know what my career would look like today.
Right. Yeah. And those battles, those are the ones that make you learn all of the knowledge that you need to do, because you're forced into it.
Right. You don't learn as much from your wins as you do from your losses.
That's right. If you're smart.
Right.
Because wins and losses are just wins and losses. But if you reflect on the loss and you say, how do I make it a win next time?
Right.
That's where your personal development comes from.
Yeah. It takes self-awareness.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about, so now you're an advisor. We're traveling around all of Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
We've had some great, funny things.
Yeah.
You ran over a homeless person. You've had a gun stole out of your car.
Allegedly.
That's not really, but
allegedly.
Alleged.
There's no evidence.
It's all hearsay.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
We drove everywhere. Man,
yeah.
Right. And at that point, we were in the formation of the leadership team. So we got big, and we're starting to develop managers and people. And I didn't want you in the room.
I know. I remember that because it was Sowers.
It was Sowers.
You got to get him in here. He's immature. He's off the walls. He can't stay focused, and it just takes one person. It always takes one person just vouching on. Give me a shot, right?
Yep.
Give him a shot, right? And I hope that decision has paid dividends.
It was one of the best decisions, and this is important, and I think this is really key. You, as a professional, you lobbied not only me, but also other people, and said, I want to go. I want to be part of that. Mm. And you raised your hand, and I said no.
Yeah.
But that didn't stop it, right? And you were coming no matter what.
Yeah.
And so we did let you come,
right.
And it has paid dividends. So thank you.
I appreciate it.
Talk about vision-based leadership. So vision-based leadership has been fun and challenging.
Yeah.
So describe it, because you have it in your office today, in your region.
Yeah.
Tell me about what is vision-based leadership. How do you view it?
To summarize it, leadership without a vision is it's stupid. It doesn't make any sense. So if you're working for a company, you don't see a clear vision as to where the company is going, not what they're doing, but where the company is going. You're not going to end up being somebody that stays long term, and you may not even have that decision.
Right.
I think about all the companies that are laying off people right now. Verizon just cut 13,000 heads across global cuts. JP Morgan Stanley cutting heads left and right, and these are firms that are trying to right size and get their reinvestment from AI, and we can go down that rabbit hole for hours, but that their vision is contracting. It's decreasing and trying to right fit to manage profits. And what I've learned as part of vision-based leadership is it's the people that you surround yourself with. It's the human element. And that's one thing that we're doing differently is hiring young people, training young people, or training green advisors, people that may be career changers later on in life that say, I want something different. I've worked at these big firms. I've gotten right-sized cut before, and I want something different for myself. And what GFA and FFA provide is the vision for someone that hasn't had a vision before. And again, it's one of those nature versus nurture. Nobody's born with a vision. Sometimes, again, you have a freak entrepreneur where it's completely vision based. Most people have a taste of success and say, okay, that was great, but what if I did 2x? Oh, that's awesome, great paycheck. What if I did 3x? Right. Okay. So what do I need to do to get to 3x? What does my team look like? How do I build the infrastructure around us? Okay. Well, and if we do a net gain of 20 people this year, what does that vision look like? And I always say 95% of the stuff that you've put out in front of us has come true. And we joke about that St. Pete office, right?
It just happened.
You're welcome. Exactly.
It just took 5 years.
It just took a little bit longer, right? So that was always the vision. But if you're not working for somebody that is clearly a visionary, you're going to run into a speed bump at some point. You're going to hit a brick wall.
Yeah. I think vision-based leadership sometimes it's important when you want to look for a company that knows where they're going.
Yeah.
And that evolves over time, and it's disruptive. Right, it's naturally disruptive, and if you're not in a company that's trying to put out a vision, not to deconstruct their organization, but to expand their organization, and it feels wrong, it feels like change, that means you're probably in the right place.
Right, and you think about the systems that you grow up in high school and in college, and right, it's the same curriculum and little tweaks and changes here and there every single year, and it's the same lesson plan every single year. And it's even as part of my Greek organization in college, this is our mission, this is our vision. It's do the right thing, be a good representation of your friends and your family, and don't do anything too stupid. And then you get out in the real world, and nobody was successful that didn't make a lot of noise.
Right.
That didn't create disruption. There's no story of people being wildly successful and not dramatically change or significantly impacting or changing something in the world. But as a college kid, you don't know that. You don't know that you have that capabilities, again, unless you're a freak entrepreneur where you know that, or you had a parent that was a really great influence, or a mentor or a family member. That it's not something that's taught. It's not something necessarily that is learned until you experience it. And so for any of the young people that are listening on this call, my advice is not to settle for comfort, to find discomfort,
right?
But take comfort in knowing that you will learn something regardless of how it goes, and that learning is really what's going to carry you for the rest of your life. Regardless, whether or not you win or lose, you're going to have something that should impact you.
Yeah, major key right there.
Major key. Yeah.
So talk about, I know your mom.
Yeah.
She's wonderful, right?
Yeah,
we
fantastic.
partied on the boat together.
Yeah, she's awesome.
She's awesome. What does she think of your development? Does she ever say, what does she say about your development?
Well, it's so funny, and she said this at our wedding. And she tells a story. She goes, I never believed in magic. And then Dave meets Vicky, and my beer drinking, pizza eating, rap singing son is eating kale and like going to the gym.
Right.
And she goes, and that is magic.
That is magic.
That's magic.
That was so cute, by the way.
She did such a great
speech. I cried on that. I was like, wow.
Yeah, it was really. She worked a long time on that, and there were times in my career, and here's one thing I really appreciate about her is I would call her with the, I've had a tough day. I don't know if I can do this. I'm looking at other jobs and stuff before, and she said, just just don't quit. Just keep going. You can do hard things, and that's one of the things. And I appreciate about my parents is that they may not have understood exactly what it looked like at the time, but they were encouraging enough to say, just keep going.
Just keep doing it. Yeah.
Just keep going, see how it goes. And that I'm forever grateful for.
Oh, that's amazing right there.
Because a lot of times parents would say, you know what, you're right. Yeah, why don't you go find something else? Why don't you go find comfort? And, my mom was a nurse. She worked in very uncomfortable situations. This is back when they're working 36-hour shifts and stuff like that. And she grew into a very successful practitioner, and then did a really good job of being a mother and a house a caretaker. But it was that just keep going. And I know she's thanked you a couple of times to say, my pizza eating, beer drinking, rap singing son is now a leader in our family and is now helping to influence our connections and our relationships on a personal level.
That's very cool.
Yeah,
that's very cool. Yeah, I remember that intimately. Her speech just put tears in my eyes.
Yeah, it was awesome.
It was very cool.
She did a really good job.
What's next for Daniel Raps Huffman?
That's a good question. I always say you'd have to pry FFA and GFA out of my cold, dead hands.
Yeah.
I have clients that say, look, no matter what happens, I'm coming with you. And I said, that's great. I'm not going anywhere.
Right.
Yeah. So just get comfortable. We're staying here for
We're hanging out.
Yeah. So I want to continue to open new markets. Yeah. I'm looking forward to our 2.0 vision of recruiting independent advisors and independent agents that want to do better, that want to do more for themselves and their families, but they don't know how. They don't have the vision and the executable processes and systems that we've managed to create in just 8.5 years, almost 9 years. And so there's going to be a value pitch that we provide to people that they're not getting anywhere else. And I'm really excited for that disruptive vision, because again, this is an area where I've got no experience.
Right.
These are uncharted waters for us. And I follow a good visionary that's done these things before, that has good anecdotes. 95% of what you say is usually come true. So I have no reason to stop, wanting to be a part of that vision.
Well, thank you. I always say in life, you can always get what you want. First, you got to know what it is.
Yeah.
Right. You have to work at it diligently. But what you can't control is how long it takes.
No, you can influence it.
You can influence it.
You can't control it.
No. So what a lot of times what people do is they get stuck in the minutia of, it's not happening. 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 Well, that's part of the process.
Yeah.
So 95% comes true today.
Yeah.
Eventually, the remaining 5%.
It finds its way there.
It finds its way there, and we'll create a new 95%.
Right.
Because it's different. We don't know what it is yet. No. But we will always accomplish, and you will always accomplish. I know you know this. Everything you could possibly imagine in your life and more.
Yeah.
So thank you. For your awesome years of service. I appreciate that. Yeah. Thank you for dealing with my bullshit.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, of course. No,
a lot of times.
Yeah.
And thank you for being who you are and building a great organization. And really, you're becoming a kingmaker, which is what I'm probably most proud of you on.
Appreciate
all the things.
Yeah.
Because you're not only have you built a great organization, you lead a great organization, but you've manufactured through your leadership and your example the next generation of leaders in our company.
Yeah.
Which is really what will define you and your success.
Right. It's a legacy that you leave. It's not what you did while you're doing it. It's who you impacted. Right. Yeah. And I think you had a quote in our Horatio offices, Maya Angelou, people won't remember what you said or what you did. They'll remember how you made them feel.
Right.
Right. And having people that have trained, that have gone on to be, more successful than I've been. I look at Adam, right, and gets 26 years old, making more than $500,000 a year, bought a little McMansion, bought a brand new Tesla for his wife, and just had a kid. And if you asked him 3 years ago, do you think he'd be where he is today? Never. And that's what GFA and FFA have given me, is the power to empower others to lead.
which is incredible.
Yeah.
You've done an amazing job. Thank you again.